Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. Today's daf is daf Ayin Aleph and Mציעא. We learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sunnah B'Tzar V'Shivya, and also for the Ili Neshama of my father, my late father-in-law, who died on this day 53 years ago. Tanya, I'm Rav Yossi. We're at the 12th line on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph, where we left up yesterday. Tanya Rav Yossi, Bo Reis Simius Eineim Shom Alav. Look at the blindness of the usurers, the people who lend out money for rebit with interest. If a person calls somebody else a name, calls him a Russia, you're a wicked person, you're already Machayav, he can harass him. The person who was offended is entitled to harass him his whole life. Tosas brings down a case, or Rashi brings down the case where you're supposed to, work with a child who is reluctant to follow the rules. Work with him until he's 12 years old, and then you can, harass him, give him some trouble. So even if he's just offended, you can call him, you can harass him. These people, Meviim Adam, these people who go against the Torah specifically, they violate the Torah openly. They bring witnesses to sign the IOU, Velavlor, and a scribe, a kulmus, and a pen, video, and ink, because when they write it, the chosman, and they sign, Ploni Zeh Kafar Belakei Yisrael, this man denies God, because God said, don't lend for ribis, don't lend out money with interest, and you're doing that. Look how bad this is. This is how blind they are. If a man has money, if you do the right thing, you have money and you lend it to the poor without any interest, about him the pasuk says, he didn't give out his money with interest, and he didn't take any bribe against an innocent person. These kind of people will never collapse, and will never fall down. What do you see from here? You can deduce from there, whoever lends out money with interest, his assets will collapse. And the Lomos comes on. A lot of people declare bankruptcy even though they haven't lent out money for ribis. People's assets collapse even without that. The people who don't commit usury, their deals may go bad and their assets may collapse, but they will rise again. But people who lend money with interest to other Jews, they don't rise again. Lama Tabit says the pasuk in Chabak. Lama Tabit Bogdim. Why do you look at the rebellers, Tachrish, and you are quiet, so to speak, to God? Kebela Resha Sadik Menu, as the Russia, the wicked person, devours or consumes the person who's more righteous than him. Amrafuna Sadik Menu, a Russia might be able to swallow up a person who's more righteous than him, but Sadik Gomer ain't a Balea. But a real Sadik he cannot consume. A real Sadik is protected from being consumed by a Russia. Tanya Rabbi Yomer. Rabbi said interesting. Ger Tzedek Omer Le'in Mechira. When we talk about it selling, if you're sold to a Ger Tzedek, the Ger Toshav Omer Le'in Ribis. A Ger Toshav is a guy who accepted the Zayin Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and lives in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, he's a Ger who lives among you, he dwells among you. Any other day, I'm not sure what they were about. In other words, Ger Tzedek is mentioned in terms of one Jew being sold to a Ger Tzedek. And when it talks about rebit, because when our Mishnah talked about a Ger Toshav is really a goy, you're allowed to lend and borrow with a goy. A Jew is allowed to do that with a goy. So it says there Ger Toshav is like that too, but I'm not sure Ger Toshav in ribis any other. I'm not sure what that meant. And he's saying there's two things here I don't understand. Ger Tzedek when it talks about being sold to a Ger, and Ger Toshav that it talks about rebit. I'm not sure what that means. Meaning, I have a question about that. What is the question? We're at the first of the wide lines of the Gemara. It says, Ger Tzedek Omer Le'in Mechira. The pasuk says, V'chimoch achicha. Right? Pasuk says, V'chiyamuch achicha imach. If your brother, your fellow Jew, becomes poor, falls down, v'nim kalacha, and it'll be sold to you. Now that's in pasuk Lamites of Perak Chafei Vayikra. Then it goes on later on, v'nimkar. And maybe later on in pasuk Mem Zayin it says v'nimkar leger toshav imach. He'll be sold to a ger toshav. What do we mean by that? Leger v'lo leger tzedek. Not only if he's sold to a ger tzedek. In other words, if he's sold, you have an obligation to redeem him. Now, if he's sold to a ger tzedek, a leger toshav. Even if he's sold to ger toshav, shneimar leger toshav. Pasuk says v'nimkar leger toshav imach ola eker mishpachas ger. That's what the pasuk says in Mem Zayin. So it says leger, but not only a ger tzedek. Even be sold to a goy, to a ger toshav, shnei ger toshav. When it says mishpachas ger at the end of the pasuk, what does that mean? That's Zanachri. He sold literally to a guy who's over Avodah Zarah, not a ger toshav. Shomer la'eker. What is la'eker? Mishpachas ger. What is that? He sold actually to the church. He sold to the church to do labor for the church. In all those cases, the pasuk says that you have an obligation to redeem him according to the number of years that he sold for, proportionally, etc. That's what la'eker means. Sell to the church. Now, that's what the pasuk talks about. But Omar Mar. So what's his difficulty with ger tzedek? Omar Mar. It says v'lo l'cha el ger. Not only to you, not if he sold to you, but if he sold to a ger. Shenemer lager. Lamemer the ger kani every. Wait a minute. So he says not only is a ger tzedek, but even a ger toshav, even a goy, even a church. But what do you mean? You mean to say that a eved ivri that we're talking about here, a Jewish man who became poor and sold himself, can be sold to a ger tzedek? A ger tzedek is not allowed to buy an eved ivri. L'meim of the ger kani eved ivri. For minu ain't a ger niknev eved ivri. A ger cannot be acquired by an eved ivri. Why is that? We'll see. Ve'ein ish of a ger kani eved ivri. Nor can a regular Jewish woman or a ger ain't a ger niknev eved ivri. Rather, I said it wrong. A ger cannot be sold as an eved ivri. That's right. Ve'ein ish of a ger kani eved ivri. And a woman or a ger cannot acquire an eved ivri. In other words, not only we said here that the pasuk said if he sold to a ger, so that means a ger tzedek. The pasuk of the ger without the word toshav is ger tzedek. So the name said that a ger can acquire an eved ivri. Is that really the ger kani eved ivri? We said a ger is not sold as an eved ivri. We'll see why in a second. Vein ish of a ger konan ivri. A woman or a ger cannot acquire an eved ivri. Why is that? Ger lo niknev eved ivri. A ger cannot be acquired as an eved ivri. Why? Because the pasuk says at the end, this is in pasuk Yud of the same parak, v'shaval mishpachto. When it comes to Yovel, v'shaval mishpachto, he's got to be able to return to his family. A ger has no family. Ger shnaskar cut and shenodam. The Gemara Yibama stav chafez that a ger is megayer. He's like a new person. He doesn't have any family, so he's excluded from v'shaval mishpachto. In other words, a ger cannot be an eved ivri because he cannot fulfill the pasuk of returning to his family, so he's excluded from that. And he's not. Okay, that's in terms of a ger becoming an eved. The einish of a ger konin eved ivri, because that's what we're talking about here. If your fellow Jew became poor and sold himself to a ger, and means even a ger tzedek, what do you mean? A woman cannot acquire a eved ivri, nor can a ger acquire an eved. Isha, why not? Why isha? It's not proper. A woman is going to acquire an eved ivri. That there could be some hanky-panky there. There could be immorality. So it's improper for a woman to acquire an eved ivri. Ger nami gemiri and a ger. Why can't a ger acquire an eved ivri? Because we have a tradition. Ger nami gemiri. We have a tradition. The mekne kani. One who could be one who can be acquired can acquire others. The lo mekne lo kani. Since we said before that a ger cannot be acquired as an eved ivri because he cannot fulfill b'shaval mishpachto, therefore he cannot acquire either. Since he cannot be acquired, he cannot acquire others either. So what do you see over here? That a ger cannot acquire an eved ivri. So what does the pasuk mean when it says v'nimkar lager? He'll be sold to a ger tzedek. What do you mean? A ger tzedek cannot acquire an eved ivri. Why? Because since he cannot be acquired, he cannot acquire either. So how do you have an eved ivri being sold to a ger? He cannot be sold to a Jewish man as a Jewish owner. In other words, he's no worse than a goy. A goy can buy an eved ivri. The church can buy an eved ivri, right? A ger toshav could be an ivri. So a ger tzedek can also acquire an ivri, but he won't have the halachas of a Jewish owner. The time we learn hanirtza, if his ear was pierced, meaning an eved ivri who became an eved ivri after 6 years was up, he extended it till Yovel. Or if he sold to a guy, let's say the man died. Let's say you have an owner of an eved ivri, and he finished 6 years, and now he extended it. He wanted to stay till Yovel. Then the master died. What happens? In a regular eved ivri, he's there for 6 years. If he dies, the son can take over. But if he's there for Yovel, meaning he was nirtza, not why? Because it says va'avado la'olam. He will serve him forever till Yovel. Him, not his son. So he excludes the son. The daughter, it says lo asabes. That's Tos mentioned. That's just agavurcha. Since he mentioned the ben, he mentioned the daughter because the daughter doesn't even acquire any evet, even if you Nimko Yisrael, he's not sold. If a man dies, his daughter does not get rishus over the evet. So nirtza. So in what sense can a ger tzedek acquire an evet ivri? Well, he said that he can't acquire an evet. He can't acquire him to be like a Jewish owner, but he can buy it like to be a goyish owner. Meaning a nirtza. It's just like a nirtza does not serve the son if the father died, the master died, the adam died, or nimkul anachi also. He's sold to a guy and the guy dies, he doesn't serve the son. Here also, in this sense, if the ger tzedek acquired a ger as an what I say, a ger tzedek, not acquired a ger. The ger tzedek acquired an evet ivri, and the ger tzedek died, it doesn't go to his son. Amar Mar, you said before, interesting. You said that not only we were talking. Our issue was, can a ger tzedek acquire can a ger tzedek? We said a ger tzedek cannot be acquired as an eved because it's not for shom shachal, and therefore he can't acquire either. We said it's mashma over here. So what's prat in the pasuk? The pasuk speaking about that he acquires him, but he only has the rishus that a guy would have, meaning that if he dies, his son would not take over. Okay, Amar Mar, right here also because it says by goy, right? What does it say by goy? It says nirtza. And an evet, it doesn't work in such an emar. You make a cheshbon when you redeem him according to the number of years. It says in koneu v'lam yosher koneu, only with the one who bought him, the guy who bought it, but not the guy's son. Okay, so he has a halacha like that. But you said also a woman. Amar Mar, so he said a ger could acquire an evet ivri, but he would have a halacha like a goyish owner, not like a Jewish owner. But a woman cannot. Name look up Shemil. This doesn't go like up Shemil. The Tanya Isha Konas Shifra. A woman could acquire a maid servant, a woman servant. Bain Konas cannot acquire male servants. Shemil Af Konas. A woman could even acquire an evet. So what do you see over here? Shemil holds that a woman could acquire an evet. You said before in this brisa that a woman does not acquire an evet. So I feel from Shemil lo kash kambev knani. Depends if it's an evet or an evet knani. Which one would you say she could acquire? An evet ivri or an evet kanani? If I just said a woman could acquire an evet, but one not the other. Which one would you say? Huh? You think she could acquire an evet kanani? Why? Why not an evet ivri? So he explains why. Evet kanani, right? Evet ivri tzaniale. You shouldn't acquire an evet ivri. Why? Because an evet ivri has some shame. He's a Jewish man. So if she commits something immoral with this evet, he's going to keep quiet. So she'll be enticed to do something because he'll keep it quiet. He's a Jewish man. He doesn't want to advertise that he committed adultery. Evet Kanani parts like Evet Kanani doesn't care. He goes out bragging about it, like the Machshamam, the Arabs who brag that they raped the Jewish women, the Hamas people. So Evet Kanani parts like he doesn't care. He's going to brag it. So she doesn't want it known that she committed immorality. So she's not going to. So therefore, since she doesn't want it known, she could buy the Evet Kanani. Why? Because the Evet Kanani is not, the Evet Kanani, she will refrain from immorality with him because she knows he's going to go and brag about it. And that's going to be embarrassing to her. So an Evet Ivri, she cannot buy because she might do something with him and he'll keep it quiet. So she might be enticed to do it. With an Evet Kanani, she's not going to do anything with him. He's going to go bragging about it. If that's the case, a lot of ton of Yosef. Yosef said, a woman who lives alone, like a widow, should not raise dogs. She also shouldn't house Jewish Talmudic students in her home because it looks immoral. It doesn't look good. I understand why Barbara, because she might commit some immorality with the Jewish student, and they'll keep quiet about it. Ela kalba, but what are you worried about a dog? Keeping the misrach, if she committed a horrible immoral act with the dog, he's going to cling to her all the time, right? So Mirza she'll be afraid, just like she's afraid to commit anything with the guy because he might go bragging about it. Well, the dog will also display an affinity towards her by clinging to her, and therefore it doesn't look good. And therefore, she'll abstain from immorality with him. Keeping the basra. If you throw a dog some meat, he'll also cling to her. Amri, and people will say, he's clinging to her because of the food, not because he's hungry, not because of immorality. So therefore, we're afraid that she would commit immorality with the dog. She's not afraid that the dog is going to cling to her. If he clings to her, people say it's because of the food. So that was the issue of Ger Tzedek. What was the issue of Ger Tzedek there? He says, I didn't understand it because how is a Ger Tzedek allowed to buy a ger? Is a Ger Tzedek rather allowed to buy an Eved Ivri? The Bryce says you can't. A ger is not nikta be'Eved Ivri, and a ger cannot acquire an Eved Ivri. So how could you say that the Eved Ivri sold himself to a Ger Tzedek? The answer is he can sell himself to Ger Tzedek, but the rules are as a Goyish owner, not as a Jewish owner. Then what about the ger Toshav, which is our issue here with the Ribit? Ger Toshav, Amalinian Ribit. What's that? The pasuk says it's a Yomu Chachicha. Now this pasuk is in the same parak Chafei, but pasuk Lamed. If your brother becomes poor, umata yado imach, and his hand reaches out to you, you should strengthen him, right? Strengthen him, ger v'toshav v'chayimach, whether he's a ger or a toshav, and let him live with you. In other words, enable him to live. Then the pasuk goes on, al tikach mi'ito neshrav, don't take any ribbit from him. V'yarei makecha, and you should fear God. God knows if you did this. V'chayachicha imach. And that's what the pasuk goes on, Lamed Hey and Lamed Vav. I think that's pasuk Lamed Hey and Lamed Vav in Parak Chafei. Now, what does that mean? It says here, if you shouldn't take any neshech, or you shouldn't take any ribit, apparently from whom? Whether he's a ger or a toshav or your brother. What's going on over here? For a minute, loving the hand. What did our Mishnah say here on Ayinam at base? You're allowed to borrow money from a goy with ribit, son, and lend them money with ribit. And the Mishnah says a ger toshav also. So the Mishnah says you're allowed to borrow money from a ger toshav. What's a ger toshav again? A goy who lives in Eretz Yisrael and keeps the Zion mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So he said he's allowed to settle. He could eat goy, he could eat treifus and everything. He's a goy, right? But he says you're allowed to lend to them ribit. So the Mishnah says, so how could the pasuk say? How does a Mishnah jibe with the pasuk that says strengthen him and don't take ribis from him? Does it say don't take ribis from them, meaning your brother or a ger toshav? No, me'itoksiv, from him, Yisrael. When it says al tikach me'ito, is going on the your brother the Jew, but a ger toshav, him you're allowed to take ribis from. You're not allowed to take ribis from your brother. You can be an Arab, a guarantor for him. Now, what does it mean, a guarantor on a ribis document? Arav Laman. Ilay Arav Yisrael. Are we talking about Arav for Yisrael? If Reuben lent money to Shimon with ribit, you're allowed to be the guarantor on that document. But Tana, we learn, we'll see this later on. Elu over Losase. The following people are over on the Losase of ribit. Who's over? Hamalva Valova, obviously, the lender and the borrower. Ha'arav, the guarantor of Adim, and the witnesses, and we'll see even the lavler, the scribe, everybody who's part of that is over. So how can you say that you could be an Arab? Okay, wait a minute. You're allowed to be an Arab if a Jew is borrowing money from Clyde the Goy, right? From Clyde. So you're allowed to, that's a legitimate transaction. You're allowed to borrow money from a Goy with rebit, and you could be a guarantor on that. Says the Gemara, but the Goyim, what they used to do is they didn't go to the borrower, they went straight to the guarantor. Our normal rules are that you first go to the loan. If he doesn't pay you, you go to the guarantor, right? You first go to the guy who signed, right? But the Goyim, they go straight to the Arav. If that's the case, you're paying the Arav rebit immediately. He's coming to you, and then you're collecting the rebit from the Jew. That's a problem. He is the one, the Arav then, the Jew is taking rebit from his fellow Jew, the one that he signed for. He is the one, he's taking on ribit. Okay, the guy agreed to follow the Jewish rules, meaning he'll collect from the lova. And if the lova can't pay, then the Arav will pay him. And when the Arav's obligation only becomes after the lova can't pay. So at that point, instead of $100, let's say the loan was $100, and he told him, and the ribis is with 120, so he gives the guy the $120 because he's the guarantor. And when he collects the 120 from the lova, that's already, you owe me $120. It's not like a loan. It's not like a loan with ribit. I laid out 120 for you. You owe me 120. That doesn't look like ribit anymore. I'm Shesha Shekibul Abad in Israel. It's like Marci Kibul Abad Israel. If the guy accepted to follow the din of Israel, ribis namilosh, you shouldn't take any ribis. I'll follow the Jewish rules. The Jewish rules are that there is no ribis. There's no ribis. Rav Sheshes shekibul of lazu v'lo kibuzu. He accepted the rule that the guy will collect from the lova first, from the borrower first, and only if he can't pay will I go to the Arev. But he didn't accept the rule about ribit, and therefore that's how this works out. So again, you can be a guarantor for a Jew who's borrowing money from a guy with ribit. Obviously, you can't be a guarantor for a Jew who's borrowing from another Jew with ribit. That's a terrible sin. Now, the end of the Mishnah said that a Yisrael can lend goyish money with the knowledge of the goy, but not with the knowledge of the Yisrael. What do we mean? What's the case of here? Again, the Jewish person has goyish money in his hand. He's allowed to lend that money to another Jew. If the goy consents. But not what do we mean by that? Yisrael Shalava, listen to the case carefully. Yisrael Shalava Maos Manachi, a Jew borrowed money from a guy with ribit, right, which is legitimate. Ubikash, he was about to return to him the money. Ubikash Lachzir was going to return to him. Masi Yisrael, another Jew. Reuben borrowed money from Clyde. Now Reuben was going to return the money with ribit, and on the way he met Shimon, and Shimon said, "I'll tell you what, lend me the money. $100 that he lent you, lend me the money, and I'll return the ribit to the guy. I'll return to him. Is that okay?" Masi Yisrael, tell him to give me the money. I will give you back the money. I'll give you back the money the same way. That's usher. That's usher, right? In other words, because here the Jew is giving the money to the other Jew, right? Reuben borrowed money with ribit from the guy, and now he's about to pay him back. And Shimon says, "Give me the money, and I'll give you back. I'll pay the ribit." Can't do that because the Jew is giving money to the Jew. But if he presented, Reuben said, "Listen, come with me to Clyde. Clyde, the money you lent me, he wants to borrow it now. So we're going to give it to him and he'll pay you back the ribit." That's okay. Because then like the guy lent him the money. Then it's okay. Now, still, the Gemara is going to ask about that. Why is that mutter? Isn't the Jew giving it to the other Jew the money? Well, he did it in the presence of the guy. Yes, but is he acting as the agent of the guy? So we'll see. We're going to talk about that. We have a klal that shliach shalom also a messenger, but that's only by Jews. Here it's a Jew being an agent for a guy. So he said in this case, in Meidus Nachri, it's okay. The opposite. Nachri shalava mos Yisrael. Let's say a guy, Clyde borrowed money from Reuben for ribis, which is legitimate. Ubigish is going to return it to him. Matzu Yisrael acher. Now he found another Jew who wants to borrow money. And the Jew said to Clyde, "Normally, give me the money, and I'll pay you back the same way you pay him." That's mutter. That's mutter. Why? Because now the guy who borrowed the money is giving the money to the Jew. It's Israel, but if you present him to the Israel, the guy said to Reuben, "Hey, listen, this guy wants to borrow money from me. Another Jew wants to borrow money from you." Then it's also. Why? Because then it's like Reuben's giving the money to Shimon with ribit. So Bishlam is Seifa l'chumra. Now in the Seifa, when we said what? That when the guy borrowed money from the Jew, and we said he wanted to return to him, and found an Israel, and he said, "Give it to me, and I'll give it to you the way you want to." That's mutter. But if he presented him to the Jew, that's usher. Now, what if he presented him to the Jew? It's still the guy giving the money to Shimon. But we say l'chumra, there is shlichus for a guy. The rabbi said, even though there's no shlichus by a guy normally, a guy cannot appoint a Jewish shliach, and a Jewish person cannot appoint a guy as a shliach. Can I say to a guy, "Be mekadosh isha for me," or say, "Give her a get"? That doesn't work, right? But l'chumra, the rabbi said, you know what? If Clyde borrowed money from Reuben and he wants to with ribit and he wants to return it now, and he met Shimon, and he said to Shimon, "I'm coming over to Reuben now. Is it okay, Reuben, for me to give the money to him?" Well, maybe the guy is like a shliach for the Yisrael. L'chumra will say it's also you shouldn't do that. If the guy gave the money directly to Shimon without consulting Reuben, okay, there you could say the guy gave him the money, not the Jew. But if you get in the presence of the Jew, then it's like the Jew appointed the guy as a shliach. So I understand Bishlam is say for l'chumra el reisha, the reisha kivudei shlichus. Since there's no shlichus for a guy, even near the kashakim in ribis, there's no shlichus over there. So in the first case where Reuben borrowed money from a guy and he wanted to return it, he met Shimon, and we said over there if Reuben gave it to him directly, that's also. But if you presented him to the guy, then it's okay. What do you mean? Why don't you say also that Reuben is like a shliach for if Reuven cannot be a shliach for the guy. What if he presented him to Clyde, but Reuven's the one who's giving him the money? Reuven's giving the money to Shimon. You say he's a shliach for the guy, but there is no shlichus for a guy. Ain't shlichus a guy, right? Elaresha, keeping the ain't shlichus a guy min Torah, ain't shlichus a nachri, even near the kashak. So Shimon is Reuven is taking ribis from Shimon, right? Shimon said, "Give me the money, and I'll return the money to you." So he's actually giving it directly to Reuven. You say he was doing it on behalf of the guy, but you can't do it on behalf of the guy. There is no shlichus for a guy. There is shlichus for a guy l'chumra. That's the sefer. That in the sefer where the guy borrowed money from a Jew, and the guy presented Shimon to Reuven, said, "Can I give him the money instead?" So you say, "Okay, l'chumra, that's a problem. Don't do it." But in the first case, why do you make him? You say that if in the first case where the Jew borrowed money from Clyde, and now Shimon wants to borrow money from Reuven, he says, "Well, if you presented him to Guy, then it's okay." Why? There's no shlichus for Guy, and should be a chomer. And it's like Reuben giving money to Shimon. Here it's speaking about what happened. In the first case, Reuben borrowed money from the guy for rebid, and now he met Shimon, and Shimon said, "Lend me the money." So Reuben said to the guy, "Listen, is it okay? If I give the money to Shimon?" And the guy said, "Okay, put the money down on the floor, and Shimon will take it from there." He knew the halachas, that he's not allowed to do. So he knew that a guy could lend money to a Jew for it. So he says, "Put the money down on the ground, and then Shimon will take it from there." So effectively, Reuben returned the money, right? Returned the money, and they said, "Okay, instead of me, Shimon will pay you the ribbit." So Shimon picked up the money from there. What's the chiddush in that? Elamar Papakon Shenatal Benasmiyat. No, he took the money. The guy took the money from Reuven, and then he gave it to Shimon. V'chatiman was chiddush in that. So Reuven returned it. He's doing it with the das of the Israel. In other words, he's doing it at the behest of the Jew. Reuben came back and said, "Listen, I'm going to return to you the money, but rather than me, I'll just give you back the regular money, and Shimon will borrow it and pay you the ribbit." So he's doing it at his behest. So it's like the Jew Reuben lending money to the Shimon via the guy's consent. It's like a daita Yisrael kagomer v'yav. He's giving it based on that, and it should be also kamashmon. And we don't say that. We don't say that. We say that if the guy took back the money and gave it to Shimon, that's all right. Rav Ashi says a different answer. When do we say there's truma? Where do we learn the whole concept of shlichus is learned out from truma, where it says atem gam atem. So from the gam atem we learn that shliach shalom kamoso, and just like atem b'nei bris, the shliach also has to be bris. He also has to be Jewish. So where do you say shlichus anachi by truma? So as if to say that you could appoint a guy to marry a woman for you or to give her a get. That's what it sounds like according to Rav Ashi. But how Rav Ashi Barusa, what Rav Ashi is saying is a mistake, right? Why it's a mistake? Why Maisha Truma the law? Why can't you be a shliach? Why can't the guy be a shliach for a Jew, or he can't appoint a Jew as a shliach? By Truma d'chsev atam gamatem b'nei bris yislik bris af shluchach b'nei bris shliach zechal Torah kol also nami mitruma g'mlin. It's learned out from Truma. So just like by Truma, a guy cannot be a shliach and cannot appoint a Jewish shliach. The same thing, kol Torah kula. El Rashi Bedusi. Some say that Rashi said it's slightly different. Rashi Kirmin and Shich Nachri Hanimili Inu Ladidon. They can't be a shliach for us. They can be a shliach for us, even though you said over here l'chumra, he could be a shliach for you. And if in the case where the guy borrowed the money is returning it to Reuven, and he says, "Can I give it to Shimon instead?" We're afraid that midrabanan there is shlichus. But where do you say ein shlich l'dochi min haTorah? Hanimili inu that can't be shliach for us. They can't be a shliach for us, says Rav Ashi. He can't be mekadosh and isha for me. Can't be megarish and isha for me. That's a goy for me. Can't be a shliach for me. But we could be a shliach for them. And if we could be a shliach for them, that's why the first case works out okay. Where the Jew Reuven borrowed money from the guy with ribbit, and then he met another Jew Shimon, and Shimon said, "Lend me that money, and I'll pay you back the ribbit." And the Jew Reuven went back to the guy, and he got his consent. He presented the Shimon to him, and he said it's okay. So he is a shliach. That's okay. He's a good shliach for the guy, and therefore transaction is okay, even if the money didn't go back to the guy physically. He's acting on behalf of the guy. This is also a mistake that Rav Ashi said. Why can't they be a shliach for us? The low ksivatem gamatem, right? The low. The low. Why can't they be a shliach atam gamatem? L'rabos shluchacha matam b'nei bris afa shluchachim bris. They both have to be Jewish. Afana l'nami. It's the same thing. It works in verse. Matam b'nei bris. Kamar bris. The same thing. Just like you are b'nei bris. The shluach has to be the mishalech also has to be a ben bris. So therefore, that's not a good answer. Elder Rashi Bedusi. And what are we left with? The answer why it works in the Resha is because he gave the money back to Clyde. Again, Reuben gave the money back to Reuben, who borrowed the money from Clyde, and now Shimon wants to borrow that money, and he is willing to pay the ribbit. He gave the money back to Clyde, and Clyde then gave the money to Shimon. And the concern is still isn't the guy acting on the behest of the Jew? We say that's okay because the Jew gave back the money to the guy, and then the guy gave the money, lent out the money to the Jew, to the other Jew. Rabbi Amar, let's say, I'll say a simple answer. You're right. There is no shlichus for a guy. A guy cannot appoint a Jewish shliach, but Rabbanan Islay Schia. Rabbanan Islay, there is shlichus Rabbanan, meaning a Jew can become a shliach for the guy mid Rabbanan. Why? Immediately have a cotton, just like a cotton, a child, cotton lav afagav blessed shlichus. Even though a cotton cannot be a shliach, Megadash Isha for anything he can't give truma for you, etc. Because it says ish in these parshas. Hegdesh or hegdesh. Rashi says. The chitz of shlichus begalusiv roy litram shein hekdesh hekdesh v'dibarochal gab hekdesh d'orim. Each kivit says Gab also says me'ez kol isha sheyed ben libo. It has to be a man, just like a cotton cannot be a shliach for hekdesh, for nedarim, for truma, for anything else like that. But avagav d'lesei shlichus islay schia. He could acquire thing midrabanan. Tranzachan lo cotton. You can be mizaka for a cotton too. In other words, even though a cotton cannot be a shliach or appoint a shliach, but you can be mezaka for him. You can acquire something for him. Midrabanan, hachanami loshna. Here also you can acquire something for the guy. So even though there's no real shlichus, but over here, what are we talking about? The Jew acquiring it for the guy, meaning the Jew is saying, "Listen to the guy. I borrowed money from you. Now I want to give it back, and you'll give it to Shimon, so you can acquire it for the guy." Rashi said. Meaning he's acquiring it on behalf of the guy. He's giving it for the guy, and so the guy is the one lending out the money. He could acquire it that way, but that's not a good comparison to the cotton. Yisrael, why even by a cotton, he will be a shliach when he's bar mitzvah. The guy can never be a shliach. Can never be a shliach, even when he grows up, and therefore it doesn't make any difference, what age he is. And therefore, there's no schia for me. Therefore, you cannot be mezaka for a guy, and therefore these answers don't work. The only answer that worked is what? Why do we say that in this case where the Jew borrowed money from the guy with ribbit, and then he met another Jew, and the Jew can't give it to the other Jew stam because that's like he's giving him ribbit. I'm lending you that money and you'll give me back the ribbit to give to the guy. But if he presents him to the guy and the guy says, okay, lend the money to Shimon, and the guy takes the money back and gives it to Shimon, that's okay. What's the big chiddush in it? The chiddush is that you don't have to be concerned that the guy only did it with the understanding, he's doing it at the behest of the Jew. So it's like the Jew is lending him money. No, the guy is the one who's lending him money, and therefore it's permitted. All right, we'll start tomorrow from Tan Rabban on the third line on Ayin Days. Chodesh Tov, Kulam. Have a good day.